Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Jitha, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So we are almost nearer to 2 o'clock. Dr. Rajesh. Hello, Dr. Rajesh. Hello, Dr. Rajesh. Are you there? Dr. Rajesh? Hello?
Also, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you so
Hello.
much. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I
Hello?
can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I suggest everyone to use earphones. Okay, so wherever possible. I'm just posting the same message. Okay, so now let us start with the proceedings of the society. In the initial, let me just okay. So now can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Today we are gathered here to discuss about antibiotic resistance, bridging pharmacological strategies, and environmental risk perspectives. So this is the today's topic. Today we have a very interested and scholar speaker, Dr. Jitha from Government Medical College of Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram. She is a professor, associate professor at Department of Pharmacology, Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. So this is a very interesting topic, and this today's webinar will be hosted by Medical Pharmacology Society, and today's webinar will be chaired by Dr. Rajesh. Rajesh B. is the professor and head from Sridevi Medical College, Tumkur, Karnataka, India. So we will give more detailed introduction about the speaker and all. Before that, I would like to give little bit 2 minutes talk about Medical Pharmacology Society. As all of you know, Medical Pharmacology Society was founded in 2016, and we have been working hard to serve the profession, mainly MD pharmacologists, and also all the other pharmacologists. Pharmacologists working across medical colleges, pharmaceutical institutions, or nursing or physiotherapy institutions, or any other allied sciences, dental, medical, all kind of pharmacologists. So we are trying our best to give the knowledge in various medical specialties, mainly catering to pharmacology subjects. And our objective is to provide a very good platform for all the pharmacologists, mainly to MD pharmacologists, And MD pharmacologists are the eligible people to become life members in our society, and others can become honorary members. So details I can explain you later. Our objective is to conduct training, provide knowledge, skill upgradation, conduct conferences, and also conduct collaborative research and develop our professionals so that they can serve the profession better in future. So with this, I request all the participants to spread about Medical Pharmacology Society and encourage more members to become life members. And we have conducted various conferences also in on-site conferences, MPSCon 2026, 2025, 2024 we conducted already, and also NCPS program conducted in 2023. And we had many other good clinical practice programs or genomics and many other programs we have conducted. And we will be coming up with many other webinars because a lot of people are interested to join hands with us and share their knowledge. And we are mainly interested to spread the knowledge to everyone. So this is what is happening here, and we are more than happy to host more programs like this. And we'll be happy to support these CME programs in various institutions. If any medical colleges come forward to host any program, so we'll be happy to look into them. And as a society, we'll be happy to support them also. And we'll be coming up with some kind of, maybe fellowship programs or, other diploma certificate course programs also very soon. So that we are still in the process of, considering them, and we'll update you in the near future. With this, I would like to, move forward with the today's agenda. So first agenda is completed about introduction to MPS Society. Now I'll go ahead introducing our chairperson for today, Dr. Rajesh B. So let me just introduce him. Dr. Rajesh is the professor and head, Department of Pharmacology. He is currently working as professor and head, Department of Pharmacology at Sridevi Institute of Medical Sciences and Research Hospital. It is located in Tumkur, almost nearly 100 kilometers from Bangalore. And he is also given responsibility as Director Student Affairs at Sridevi Institute of Medical Sciences. And again, he is the member secretary for Pharmacovigilance Committee and Pharmacotherapeutic Committee. And then he is the coordinator for ADR Monitoring Center, AMC, at Sridevi Institute of Medical Sciences. And again, member of Institutional Ethics Committee, Antimicrobial Stewardship Committee, then Hospital Infection Prevention and Control Committee. And he is also a NABH certified GCP trainer. NABH Standard 6th Edition Hospital Assessor Training Program. So he is also certified in that. And he's, he has also undergone a certificate course in Ethics Review of Health Research, ICMR E-certificate also. So this is, like we have a very nice friend, like he's a very good friend of me and a very good colleague. And he was successfully involved in KSMPCon 2023. And he was one of the co-organizing committee member and also secretary. So in that way, so he has vast experience and he is a quiz master also. So we would like to have him in the future also as a quiz master at MPSCon in future events. So now I would like to request Dr. Rajesh to take over the next proceeding of introducing today's speaker. Dr. Rajesh,
Thank you for the nice.
your voice is not clear. Maybe can you please adjust a little bit? Your voice is not clear, Dr. Rajesh. No. Dr. Rajesh, your voice is not clear. Hello, Dr. Rajesh. Maybe can you log out and log in again? It looks like your voice is not clear.
What about now, sir?
Yeah, this is better now.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yeah, you can start from now.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah,
Am I audible now?
yeah, it's better.
Hello?
Yeah, this is good. This is good. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, this is good. You can go ahead.
Thanks for the introduction, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now I'd like to...
No, again, there is disturbance.
Yeah,
Yeah, now better.
okay, sir. The screen is not visible, sir. The
Okay.
introduction slide about about today's speaker, Dr. Jitha. The screen is not visible.
Just 1 minute. Now is it better? Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me welcome today's speaker, Dr. Jitha S. To the no, sir, it is still showing as started screen sharing. It is not yet visible.
Just can you wait for a few seconds? Is it visible now?
Okay, sir.
Is it?
Yeah, now it is visible,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, please go ahead.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be giving a brief introduction about the today's speaker, which is Dr. Jitha S. Dr. Jitha S is working as Associate Professor of Pharmacology at Government Medical College in Thiruvananthapuram. She is having a total teaching experience of more than 12 years. She has completed her advanced course in medical education from the NMC. She has worked as Deputy Coordinator of the ADR Monitoring Center in her college at GMC Thiruvananthapuram. She is also a nodal officer of antibiotic stewardship program. She is also a nodal officer for the Young Innovators program. She is a faculty member of the medical education unit at her institution. She is also a member of the NTEP program, that is National Tuberculosis Elimination Program, the committee which is involved in this, and also various other committees in our institution. She has delivered various talks, health talks in All India Radio and as well as in her institution. She is an active member involved in the research activities on environmental toxicities of pharmaceutical agents. And she has published many journals in well-indexed peer review. So with this introduction, I want to talk something about today's topic, that is antibiotic resistance. So antibiotic resistance, it's a global threat which is spread across the world. There are no countries which can say that they don't have this antibiotic resistance. According to the 2019 the statistics issued by the WHO, nearly 5 million deaths occur in a year, which are attributed to the factors relating to this antimicrobial resistance. Out of this, 1.3 million are directly related to the antimicrobial resistance. When we talk about antimicrobial resistance, it is leading to increased financial burden on the not just the patients as well as the governments as well. The World Bank, it estimates that in another 5 years, that is by 2030, the financial burden because of this antimicrobial resistance will be in the range of $1 trillion to $3 trillion. That is not million or billion, it is trillion, 1 trillion to $3 trillion. That will be the significance or the burden of this antimicrobial resistance. And when we talk about this antimicrobial resistance, it's not just affecting the humans. It is also affecting the livestock, the animals, as well as the plants. So the final significance will be, in the future, we might be having this food insecurity, the increasing uh, troubles or insecurities due to the supply of the foods as well as the livestock. So with this brief introduction, now I would like to call upon Dr. Jitha to start her presentations.
Yeah, Dr. Jitha, you can take over.
Yes, sir. So shall I share the screen, sir?
Yes, please go ahead. Can you make it slide share?
So is it visible now?
Slideshow. Yeah, now this is better. Yes, it is now good.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Rajesh, for those kind words for introduction and for the nice introduction regarding the topic also. And I would like to thank Dr. Shivamurthy sir for giving me this opportunity for delivering this topic on antibiotic resistance, and also the members of the Pharmacological Society for giving this opportunity. And I would like to welcome all the delegates who are present here, the seniors, colleagues, and dear friends. So today we'll discuss this antibiotic resistance, bridging pharmacological strategies with environmental risk perspectives. So we know that this antibiotic resistance is actually a problem that is happening due to misuse and overuse of antibiotics. So this misuse and overuse of antibiotics takes place not only in the human health sector, but also in other health sectors like animal husbandry, agriculture, veterinary practices, and so on, fisheries and many other fields. So this antibiotic resistance due to misuse and overuse of antibiotics is there, which causes development of drug-resistant organisms. But at the same time, there is another aspect where these antibiotics get disposed, improperly disposed to the environment at sublethal concentrations, where these organisms, these microorganisms get a chance to develop drug resistance against these drugs. So that factor is also there. So when sublethal concentration of these antibiotics are present in the environment, these organisms gain resistant mechanisms, and not only that, these drug resistant genes get transferred to the other microorganisms, causing drug resistant strains and thereby many drug resistant infections. So these two aspects are there. So we'll deal with these medical aspect of antibiotic resistance as well as this environmental aspect, that is the development of drug resistant genes due to the sublethal concentration of antibiotics, both these aspects in a pharmacological perspective. So let's see. So in this topic, I would like to discuss the topics under these following headings: antimicrobial resistance, then the antimicrobial stewardship, the burden and consequences of this antimicrobial resistance, then the pharmacological approach in managing the most common drug-resistant organisms, which are the carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriaceae, carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii, carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa, then methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and vancomycin-resistant Enterococci. So we'll see the pharmacological aspect of dealing with these organisms. Then about the drug-resistant genes in the environment, concentrations of antibiotics in water sources, then how to find the risk quotient associated with the presence of the antibiotics in the environment, and how we can go for the policies for mitigating antimicrobial resistance. So this is the definition of antimicrobial resistance given by WHO, and even in the Lancet publications. I have split the definition into 4 components so as to highlight the keywords. As we all know, antimicrobial resistance occurs when bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites change over time and no longer respond to medicines, and making infections harder to treat and increasing the risk of disease spread and severity. And what are the consequences of these antimicrobial resistance? We all know that it causes the prolongation of the stay in the hospitals and thereby increasing the risk of developing hospital-acquired infections. And even then, the hospital-acquired infections will be mainly due to the drug-resistant organisms, and the success of treatment will be compromised without the effective antimicrobials. That will lead to increased morbidity and mortality, and thereby increasing the burden of the health system. And not only in that aspect, but also these organisms will transmit these traits to other organisms and spread of infections in the hospitals and community. And that will lead to substantial effect on the economy at the individual and society level. So this is Sir Neil. So this is Sir Neil, and this many of you will be knowing this is a famous economist in US. He was working in Gold Sachs company, and the then the UK Prime Minister David Cameron has entrusted this eminent personality to look into the future aspect of this antimicrobial resistance. What will be the impact of antimicrobial resistance in the future 30 to 40 years apart? Then this prediction models put forward by Sir Neil was alarming. And as Dr. Rajesh mentioned, this it causes about 10 million deaths by 2050. That is the estimated deaths caused by AMR by 2050. And the economic loss will be going to about $100 trillion of GDP loss in the 2050. So that is the impact of antimicrobial resistance. So in this juncture, we'll be thinking whether this antimicrobial resistance is a global health problem. See, in the graph, we'll be getting an idea that this antimicrobial resistance is one of the top global health problems and one of the leading causes of death worldwide. And when an estimate was taken in 2021, it caused about 4.7 million deaths associated with AMR in India. And so in worldwide and in India, in 2019, it causes 10 lakh deaths per year. So per year, that death constitutes about 10 lakh due to AMR. And this is a timeline showing the evolution of antibiotics and the evolution of the resistance that is going hand by hand. So this was given in one of the journals by International Journal of Molecular Science and depicted by Brown et al. And here we can see that when there were no organisms in 1900s, when there were no antibiotics in the 1900s, the most common cause of death were 3 major infections. But with the advent of antibiotics, see, after 150 years, now this antibiotic resistance is going to kill 50 million people worldwide, despite of having all sorts of antimicrobials in our hand. So that is the grave situation we have to keep in mind. So with the introduction of antimicrobials, these antimicrobial resistant traits are also getting emerged, and there are very few drugs to combat this antimicrobial resistance. Now, antimicrobial stewardship. So what is antimicrobial stewardship? Some of the key words I have highlighted in various colors. It is actually a coordinated intervention for what? To improve and measure the appropriate use of antimicrobial agents by selection of optimal antimicrobial drug regimen, dosing, duration of therapy, and route of administration. So this is the definition given by this International Infectious Disease Society of America, Pediatrics Infectious Disease Society, and so on. Now, they have given a classification. This classification, you will all be aware, that is the AWARE classification. And what is this access group of drugs? Yes, in the access group, these drugs are having low potential of causing antimicrobial resistance selection. And these are usually widely available, and there are less chances of toxicity. Under this comes the amoxicillin, ampicillin, and other drugs. Let's see the watch group of drugs. Here we see the azithromycin and cefixime groups of drugs, cephalosporin groups of drugs, then carbapenem groups of drugs, and so on. So azithromycin is coming under the watch group of drugs. So what is watch group? These drugs have higher potential for selection of antimicrobial resistance that is used in sick patients in hospital setting, and overuse has to be avoided and carefully monitored. So that is the significance of watch group. And what about the reserve group? They are the last resort to treat severe infections that is caused by multi-drug resistant pathogens. So this is a classification given by WHO to prevent the misuse of antibiotics by people. So today we'll discuss about some drug resistant bacteria. So there will be carbapenem resistant gram negative bacteria and carbapenem resistant gram positive bacteria. So carbapenem resistant gram negative bacteria mainly classified into 2 types. One is the Enterobacteriaceae, which comprises of the E. coli and Klebsiella. And the non-Enterobacteriaceae group, that is a non-fermenters, that is the Acinetobacter baumannii and Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And the gram-positive organisms, the MRSA and vancomycin resistant enterococci. So let's see. So this basic idea of a bacteria is important to know what all enzymes are being selected, are to be known to select the particular antibiotic to kill the bacteria and to treat the infection. So here we can see that the beta-lactam group of antibiotics, that is the penicillins, cephalosporins, monobactams, carbapenems, all enter through these sporin channels, and then they bind to the penicillin binding protein and thereby inhibit the cell wall synthesis. So there are various resistance mechanisms that is being operated along with this. What could be the various resistance mechanisms? One is the alteration of the sporin channel. See, we can see here a red sporin channel that is altered, that causes drug resistant trait. Then again, alteration in the penicillin binding protein. Then again, due to efflux pump mechanism. So these are the resistance mechanisms by which bacteria act against the antibiotics. Now, this is a very simple classification of the beta-lactamases that are produced by the bacteria. So this is a simple classification because this classification targets the substrates on which the beta-lactamases act. When penicillinases are there, they target the penicillins. When the cephalosporinases are there, they target the cephalosporins. When the carbapenemases are there, they target the carbapenems as well. So then another thing is there, what is this? AMC. What is AMC? It is actually an inducible enzyme that is produced by certain bacteria on exposure to beta-lactam group of antibiotics. So these are inducible enzymes. So when they are exposed to certain beta-lactam antibiotics, what happens is AMC is produced. What does AMC do? They hydrolyze penicillins and cephalosporins up to third generation. So this knowledge is necessary to select particular antibiotics for treating particular infections. So this is another formal way of classifying this beta-lactamases. This is called the Ambler molecular classification, where it is classified into class A, B, C, and D. So under class A, the most commonly seen ones are the TEM, the SHV, and CTXM. So these names are very interesting. See, we'll think how these names came. So this CTX comes from the cefotaxime because it hydrolyzes cefotaxime. And again, this TM is some Timori group of enzymes. Then SHV is there. So again, in the class A, these are extended spectrum beta-lactamases. TEM, SHV, CTXM are extended spectrum beta-lactamases, whereas there is a carbapenemase, which is the KPC. That is about class A. Now class B, there is a metallo-beta-lactamase, and the most important one that is very, very important and notorious in our Indian setting is the New-Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, NDM. Because this New-Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase strain is present in more than 50% of carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella and more than 70% of carbapenem-resistant E. coli. And the pathetic thing is that none of the beta-lactamase inhibitors available in India are active against this New-Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase. So that is the situation. Now class C. Class C is the AMC enzymes that are produced. And class D, again, there is extended spectrum beta-lactamases and then OXA enzymes, OXA 23, 48, 51, like that. So this is the formal classification. Then another classification is also there, the Bush-Jacobi classification. Anyway, we'll have to know about the TEM, SHV, CTXM, then the KPC coming under class A, the New-Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase coming under class B, AMC, and the OXA group of enzymes in class D. Now, among the various enzymes, as I have just said, these are the various important enzymes that we have to keep in mind while dealing with the infections. So there are 6 enzymes, out of which the first 3 are beta-lactamases and the last 3 are carbapenemases. Okay. Now see how these beta-lactamase inhibitors or BLIs are going to act on each of these enzymes. The avibactam and N-metasobactam have fairly good action on all the ESBLs, that is CTXM, SHV, and TEM. But when we come to the carbaphenamases, the noodle metallo-beta-lactamase is not acted upon by the avibactam or even the N-metazobactam. So that is a grave situation. And noodle metallo-beta-lactamase is the strain that is very, very prevalent in India. And we don't have any beta-lactamase inhibitor so far. Now, for treating this, what are the treatment options for this metallo-beta-lactamases? So we said that metallo-beta-lactamase, one more thing, why we say this metallo-beta-lactamase, there is something, a metal is included in this, isn't it? So class B are metallo-beta-lactamase because zinc ion is incorporated into the metallo-beta-lactamase. And for the other groups, class A, C, and D, they are the serine enzymes. So only one zinc enzyme and the rest are the serine enzymes. So for the treatment options, this ceftazidime, avibactam, and a combination of aztreonam is added to combat the metallo-beta-lactamase. So we don't have avibactam alone. Actually, in Enterobacteriaceae, this ceftazidime is having no role. But in India, this avibactam alone preparation is not widely available. So ceftazidime avibactam is given and a coverage of aztreonam is added to tackle this noodle metallo-beta-lactamase. As no BLIs are available, this aztreonam takes place in rescue. Now, then polymyxin-based therapy. That is another option for treating this metallo-beta-lactamases. So polymyxins, you know that polymyxins are actually of two types, polymyxin B and polymyxin E. Polymyxin E is otherwise called colistin. So here, polymyxins actually need therapeutic drug monitoring and toxicity profile is not well appreciated. So polymyxins is kept in mind when this safety profile is considered. We have to think twice for starting this polymyxin. But on demand of these organisms of drug resistant strains, we'll have to add polymyxin also. Polymyxin based therapy means we are not giving this polymyxin as monotherapy, but always a combination is added when polymyxin is given. So when we look at the pharmacological properties of polymyxin B and colistin, otherwise called polymyxin E, we see that the safety profile wise, this colistin is having a lesser safety side because it causes more nephrotoxicity compared to polymyxin B. But the pharmacodynamic properties like dosing, obtaining therapeutic concentrations like area under the curve, these parameters are all well maintained by polymyxin B when compared to colistin. And one more thing is colistin is available as this prodrugs. So it will take time to get converted into the active form and to reach the therapeutic level. So that reason is also there for selecting polymyxins over colistin. Then where all we select colistin? That is for treating locally. For example, administering intrathecal or intraventricular administration of colistin in treating meningitis. Such local administration, we prefer colistin. Now, there is something called the efficacy index. When we treat an infection, then we get a report like this, blood culture report showing more than one drug is sensitive. So here we see tigecycline, fosfomycin, and colistin are sensitive. So here we can see MIC. MIC is the minimum inhibitory concentration. And this is a CLSI breakpoint. What is CLSI breakpoint? Central Laboratory Standards Institute, which is located in USA, they release an MIC value which will be taken as reference for comparing our MIC so that we can select the appropriate antibiotics. So by dividing the CLSI reference values they provide, when we divide this sensitive strains, CLSI by MIC, when this efficacy value is more, we will say that the drug will be having more clinical efficacy. So if that way, when we do the calculation CLSI by MIC, fosfomycin is having the higher value among the sensitive drugs. So in this situation, we will choose fosfomycin. This is a situation when more than one antibiotics are sensitive and which one we have to choose. Then we will compare our MIC value with this reference standard of CLSI. CLSI is a reference standard, that is a central laboratory standard institute providing values, that is called the CLSI breakpoint. Now we'll be able to answer this question given by the Infectious Disease Society of America. What are the preferred antibiotics for the treatment of infections outside the urinary tract caused by carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriaceae if NDM production is present? For NDM, there are currently no available BLIs or beta-lactamase inhibitors. So ceftazidime avibactam in combination with aztreonam or cefiderocol, which is another siderophore for cephalosporin, can be given as monotherapy for treatment. Now, what are the preferred antibiotics for treatment of infections outside the urinary tract caused by carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriaceae if oxafortate-like production is present? Again, their NDM is not there, so we need not add aztreonam. We can add ceftazidime avibactam because avibactam is active against oxa enzymes. That is the preferred treatment. Now there can be a situation where there can be NDM, that is New Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, which is a class B enzyme, plus a mutated penicillin binding protein 3 in the organism. So what will we do then? Then the drugs we can use are the plasmomycin, fosfomycin based therapy, and the cefepime-sidibactam. So let's see. This is plasmomycin. So this is actually an aminoglycoside group of antibiotic, which is a derivative of cysomycin. And we know that when new drugs are seen in the market, they come under only one brand name. That is only one company market these drugs. What is the reason? The reason is soon after they market these drugs, when the people start using, development of resistance is obviously there. So they won't get that benefit or that profit. So actually, drug companies are reluctant to start more and more antibiotics in the usage of hospital-acquired infections. So one thing this FDA do is they give this drug an status that is called the qualified infective disease product, so that they can produce and market the drug for the 5 years, so that can get a fairly good profit and they may not go for loss. So plasmomycin is coming under the trade name Zemdri, and it is active against more than 90% of Enterobacteriaceae non-susceptible to the conventional aminoglycosides like amikacin, gentamicin, and tobramycin. And see, there are 3 structural differences that is made in this plasmomycin so that aminoglycoside modifying enzymes are not acting on plasmomycin. That is the difference from conventional aminoglycosides this plasmomycin is having at 3 points, 3' 4' and 6' end, and an N1 substitution with the 4-amino 2-hydroxybutanoic acid. These 3 modifications makes the plasmomycin resistant to aminoglycoside modifying enzymes. Now, this drug, why we are discussing plasmomycin and cefepime-sidibactam? Because these are the drugs coming for our rescue when there is NDM plus penicillin binding protein 3 mutation. So cefepime-sidibactam, it's bind to penicillin binding protein 2. So that is how it is having an upper hand over other drugs. So there is beta-lactamase stability. But this drug is not having activity against metallo-beta-lactamase and oxafortate enzymes. Okay. Now this drug, cefiderocol, and the interesting name is Fetroja. And this Fetroja reminds us of another name, that is a Trojan horse. Yes, Trojan horse is something that is we hear in cybersecurity issues. Then another, in the Greek mythology also, there was a Trojan horse like this. In the Greek mythology, the city of Troy was invaded by the Trojan horse because many soldiers were sitting inside the Trojan horse and they entered the city and the city was captured. So in that principle, this drug is given the name cefiderocol and the trade name Fetroja. See, in this cefiderocol, actually, one part of the ceftazidime side chain and another part of the cefepime side chains are incorporated so that it enhances the stability against beta-lactamases and it facilitates penetration, better penetration into the gram-negative bacteria. And there is a catechol moiety that provides additional stability against beta-lactamases. Excuse me, sir, some marks are being seen in the screen. Okay, so cefiderocol. So cefiderocol,
I
this is
request not to do such kind of markings. I request everyone to refrain from this kind of thing, disturbances. I think we should be more responsible.
okay. So this cefiderocol is a siderophore cephalosporin, and when we compare the conventional beta-lactam antibiotics with cefiderocol, what we see is that there is a transport mechanism that is being used by the cefiderocol. So to know this mechanism, we should know something about sepsis. In sepsis, what happens is there is a large amount of multiplication of this organism. For this organism to survive, they need iron, the ferrous or ferric iron. So what happens is our body will try to deprive the organism of this iron by promoting the production of a protein called lactoferrin. So that is a protective mechanism produced by our body to deprive the organisms of the iron, that is by synthesizing an iron sequestering protein, that is lactoferrin. Now what happens? Bacteria is also not bad. They are also intelligent. They will start producing new siderophores. This is the channel. This is the channel. And what happens? Through these siderophores, whatever available iron is present in the environment enters inside the bacteria, and they use this iron for multiplication. Now, cefiderocol is utilizing this siderophore mechanism of the organism to get entry. See, the cefiderocol will get bound to the iron content, and both these together enter through the siderophore into the bacterial cell. So cefiderocol uses this siderophore produced by the organism to get entry into the organism and thereby inhibits protein, penicillin binding protein binding, and thereby cell wall lysis. Now let's see this question. This is a clinical situation where Klebsiella is found in blood cultures. And see, the results are resistant to ceftriaxone and cefepime, resistant to imipenem, susceptible to meropenem. So what could be the mechanism? See, one carbapenem is resistant, another carbapenem is sensitive. So here we should understand one concept, that is, there can be carbapenem resistant organisms as well as carbapenemase producing organisms. Both are different. So carbapenem resistant organisms means if the organism is resistant to any one of the carbapenem, we call it carbapenem resistant organism. So here it is resistant to imipenem but susceptible to meropenem. So here we do not know whether this organism is a carbapenemase producer. For knowing whether it is a carbapenemase producer, we have to do genotype testing where we get carbapenemases like KPC or NDM or this oxide type enzymes. So if there is no carbapenemase production, if we have done the genotype test and there is no carbapenemase production, we can go for the susceptible meropenem for treatment. If there is carbapenemase production, even if the report comes as sensitive, you should avoid this carbapenem groups because carbapenemase enzyme is there. That will definitely impair the clinical efficacy of the drug. So that is the situation. Now, and the situation where E. coli is given in a post-neurosurgical meningitis patient, and it is resistant to ceftriaxone, cefepime, resistant to imipenem and meropenem. Then ceftazidime avibactam aztreonam synergy resistant. So what will be the treatment option? So here we can see the organs resistant to cephalosporins, third and fourth generation, resistant to carbapenems. Then what is the ceftazidime avibactam aztreonam synergy test? So here synergy test means we know the synergism, isn't it? So when these drugs are combined and administered, if there is a better clinical efficacy than the drugs are given individually, then we call it as synergy. So when it is synergy is negative, that means synergy resistant. That means even after giving aztreonam, there is no clinical benefit. So what are the treatment options? So now we have no ceftriaxone. We have no ceftazidime avibactam aztreonam combination also there for treating this infection. So what is left? As in the previous slide, now we have to go for polymyxins or fosfomycins. So as it is a meningitis patient, we can give intrathecal or intraventricular colistin, because for local administration, colistin is preferred. And then we have to give as fosfomycin as add-on, because fosfomycin is having a better clinical efficacy in CNS infections. And it is more clinically useful in E. coli infections than in Klebsiella infections. So also fosfomycin should be added in this case. Now, that is about carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriaceae. We'll just have a brief look on carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. So studies have shown that there is more than 80% prevalence of carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii in India. And see, it produces mainly 5 enzymes. The New-Delhi metallobeta-lactamase, then OXA 23, 24, 51, and 58. So these are the enzymes produced by Acinetobacter baumannii. And see, what is the effect of our available BLIs, beta-lactamase inhibitors, on this organism? None is effective against the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. So what will we do? So see, here we can see the Tazobactam, Avibactam, and Metazobactam that is available in India is not acting against it. Even those that are available in the US, that is the Relibactam and Vaborbactam, is also not acting on these enzymes. So what is our choice? Now, the IDSCA 2024 guidance on the treatment of antimicrobial resistant gram-negative infections say the treatment of choice is Sulbactam, Durlobactam, that is available in India, plus adding a carbapenem, meropenem, or imipenem and cilastatin. So this is the treatment for carbapenem resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. Durlobactam is taking the role of the beta-lactamase inhibitor. Okay, so sulbactam is having the bactericidal action, and durlobactam taking the role of the beta-lactamase inhibitor. So sulbactam, the dose is very, very important. It should be given in very high doses, like 8 to 12 grams, usually 9 grams daily in 3 or 4 divided doses, maybe 3 grams per dose, like that in 3 divided doses. Per day, it should come up to 9 grams daily. So that is the dose of sulbactam. That is to be kept in mind while treating CRA, crab. So that is crab actually. And the other treatment options are ampicillin sulbact, and adding tigecycline, minocycline, or iravacycline, which are the newer tetracyclines to which they are sensitive. And even we can add polymyxins as alternative regime. Now, the other next group, carbapenem resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa. See, there are studies which show this carbapenem resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa prevalence in India is more than 20% in the isolates. So it also shows different resistant mechanisms to these drugs. See, for beta-lactams, there are chromosomal overexpression and production of AMBC, which is an inducible enzyme, then porin mutation, then OXA enzyme production, then efflux pump expression. So among these, the efflux pump and the porin mutations are the significant ones when Pseudomonas aeruginosa is considered. Again, for aminoglycosides also, due to the altered permeability, aminoglycosides modifying enzymes, overexpression of efflux pumps, this aminoglycosides is also resistant. What about fluoroquinolones? Again, due to various resistance mechanisms like gyrase mutations, altered permeability, and efflux systems. There is resistance to CRPA or carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Now, what are the treatment options available? They are the carbapenem, piperacillin tazobactam, cefepime, ceftazidime, ceftolozane tazobactam. Then we can add an aminoglycoside, colistin, or fosfomycin with this. So this is the treatment options for carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Now let's see about MRSA. Now, methicillin-resistant Staph is actually, this infection started way back in 1965, and the prevalence is about 37%. And we see vancomycin, teicoplanin, linezolid, daptomycin, ceftaroline, levonadifloxacin. This is one drug that is produced in India. Then the newer glycopeptides, telavancin, dalbavancin, oritavancin, and tedisol. These are the drugs that are useful for MRSA infection. So vancomycin, actually, it has less penetration in lungs and bones. What about teicoplanin? It has better safety profile and good tissue penetration, but not in the CNS. So for CNS infections, teicoplanin is not preferred. What about linezolid? It is a static drug. So for bloodstream infections and infective endocarditis, we prefer cidal drugs. So for those indications by MRSA, like bloodstream infections or infective endocarditis, we do not prefer linezolid. And what is the advantage of tedizolid over linezolid? Myelosuppression property of linezolid is overcome in tedizolid because less myelosuppression with tedizolid. Now, another advantage of this linezolid is it is having anti-toxic property. That means if there is some infection like toxic show syndrome, there linezolid can be used because it is having some anti-toxic property also. And it has high levels of penetration in the lungs. It reaches high concentration in the lung epithelial tissue. So it is used in treatment of MRSA pneumonia. But one problem is that linezolid is a reserved drug for our MDR TB. So misuse of linezolid should be done with great caution because we will be left with no drugs for treating MDR TB. So that is the problem for using linezolid for other bacterial infections. Now, what about daptomycin? This mechanism is not cell wall, but it inhibits the cell membrane function by calcium-dependent binding, but it is not effective in pneumonia because when daptomycin enters the lungs, it will be inactivated by the surfactants present in the lungs. So daptomycin is not useful in bacterial pneumonia caused by MRSA. And what about ceftazidime, which is a fifth generation cephalosporin? There is some structural difference in ceftaroline compared to other cephalosporins. So it is less acted upon by beta-lactamases enzymes, and there will be increased binding of the ceftaroline to penicillin binding protein 2. So that is the advantage of ceftaroline. And levonadifloxacin, that is a newer clone made in India, and it is acts by DNA gyrase inhibition. And DCGI approved this drug for treatment of acute bacterial skin and structure infections. Actually, skin and structure infections is almost synonymous to skin and soft tissue infections, but there is a slight difference. And levonadifloxacin is given for acute bacterial skin and skin structure infections. And the newer glycopeptides, telavancin, dalbavancin, and oritavancin, they are actually active against daptomycin-resistant isolates. And it is used in skin and soft tissue infections, hospital-acquired and ventilator-associated pneumonia. And what about tedizolid? We have said the advantage of tedizolid, that is over linezolid, it has less myelosuppression. So when this vancomycin or teicoplanin is given, this therapeutic drug monitoring has a role. And when we monitor this vancomycin, we go for the values area under the curve by MIC, because if trough levels are chosen, there will be a chance of overdosing of the patients by the drugs, leading to nephrotoxicity. So always for vancomycin, area under the curve by MIC is taken rather than trough levels, whereas in teicoplanin, we can go for trough level monitoring. And see the different infections caused by MRSA that we have already discussed the properties of different drugs. So in skin and soft tissue infections, it is vancomycin or teicoplanin because of very good tissue penetration. Then in complicated UTI, again, vancomycin or teicoplanin. Then CAP, community-acquired pneumonia and ventilator-associated pneumonia, teicoplanin or linezolid because of high levels in the alveolar epithelium. Catheter-related bloodstream infection. Here, vancomycin or teicoplanin. Then for meningitis, again, vancomycin. For septic arthritis, we will go for vancomycin or teicoplanin because teicoplanin has high bone penetration and less toxicity. And for brain abscess, again, vancomycin. Then this extraventricular drainage-related infections or meningitis, there we go for intrathecal vancomycin. And in infectious endocarditis, we go for vancomycin or daptomycin. And never this linezolid, as it is a static drug. Now, this vancomycin-resistant enterococci. Actually, this vancomycin-resistant enterococci, there are two organisms. One is the Enterococcus faecalis, constituting about 15% of resistance in the isolates, and Enterococcus faecium constitute about 10% resistance in the isolates. And this Enterococcus faecium is a more notorious organism compared to faecalis because it is having more vigorous mechanisms of resistance. And we know that vancomycin-resistant enterococci actually emerge due to the presence of VAN genes. So when we look at the VAN genes, VAN A, B, D are having high level of resistance and cross-resistance to teicoplanin. What is this VAN A gene doing with this organism? Actually, the vancomycin binds to the diala subunit of the glycopeptide chain, thereby inhibiting the cross-linking of the peptidoglycans. But what happens when there is a VAN A gene in the organism? The organism will change one diala moiety to D-lactate. So diala becomes D-alanine D-lactate. Now vancomycin cannot bind to this diala D-lactate moiety, thereby causing vancomycin resistance. So that is the mechanism of VAN A gene. And what are the treatment options? Here we have the drugs linezolid and the streptogramins, quinipristin and dalfopristin. Streptogramin A, dalfopristin, and B, quinipristin, and they act in synergy to prevent the protein synthesis. So this is the FDA approved drugs, but other drugs are also used in clinical practice, which includes the daptomycin, then ceftobiprole, like that. Now let's have a look on the drug-resistant genes in the environment. So we see what are the pharmacological strategies to overcome the drug-resistant organisms by keeping a mind on the enzymes that they produce, the different beta-lactamases, the different carbaphenamases they produce. Now, what is happening in the environment due to this drugs? Actually, improper safe disposal of the drugs. It can be from the drug manufacturing units. See, drug manufacturing units, the spillage of the waste which constitutes a major risk in our environment, contaminating the water sources, soil, air, like that. Now from the hospitals, the hospital effluent waste. Now the hospital effluent waste will be carrying these antibiotics into the environment. Now the wastewater treatment plants. Wastewater treatment plant, actually some treatment is taking place, but they are not in a proper way to combat the antibiotics that are present in the water sources. So this wastewater treatment plant sources. Now the municipal sewage waste from our houses. So this also carries antibiotics into the environment. How? We may pour the leftover antibiotics or the expired antibiotics into the closets or the sink, thereby leading to this dissemination of the antibiotics into the environment. So all these sources contribute to the sublethal levels of antibiotics in the environment. Here we remember about what Alexander Fleming said in the when he received the Nobel Prize. What he said is, there will be a time when penicillin can be brought easily from shops, and then the ignorant man will overuse these antibiotics and will make these microorganisms susceptible to sublethal concentrations of the antibiotics, thereby developing drug-resistant genes, which will be a great danger. So that thing we have to be kept in mind when these sublethal concentrations of the antibiotics are disseminated in our environment, in water sources, soil, and air. Now, there are various studies in India that have been taken, where one study is the discovery of sulfonamide-resistant genes in deep groundwater. That is what was done in Patna in 2022. There, they found drug-resistant genes of sulfonamides cell 1, 2, and 3 were present in groundwater sources. So that study pointed to the potential source of antimicrobial resistant genes in Indian groundwater. Now, this is another study, persons of natural this antibiotic resistant genes in bacteriophage. So what happens when there is drug resistant genes in the bacteriophage? They will transfer this drug resistant genes to other microorganisms, and the microorganisms becomes virulent, and they are more prone for developing drug resistant infections. So that study is also done, and so that is regarding, many studies are done regarding the presence of drug resistant organisms in many parts of the world, including our country. Now, when we look at the drugs present in the environment, whether these drugs are present in our water sources. Yes, actually, these drugs are present in our water sources. The water we drink, if we test, there may be some amount of antibiotics, maybe in microgram or nanogram concentrations per liter, but there is. So, one studies pharmaceuticals in water as emerging pollutants for river health. In this study, we see that many drugs, for example, in this study, they have looked for this azithromycin and sulfonamide levels. So azithromycin and sulfonamide levels were present in the river water, and thereby causing toxicity to the aquatic environment and antimicrobial resistance. And there is another study which was done in the surface water of river Yamuna. There they looked for ofloxacin, amoxicillin, and erythromycin. There also nanogram levels of these antibiotics were present in the water. And what does these microgram and nanogram concentrations of antibiotics do? They cause development of drug resistant genes in microorganisms and dissemination to other organisms. And we had done a study in that is water contamination by commonly used antimicrobials. We looked for 5 antimicrobials in our water sources, and there were microgram concentrations of antibiotics which are commonly used, including meropenem, piperacillin, ceftazidime, ceftriaxone, like that. So all the 5 antibiotics were present in water, and this analysis was done using LCMS MS machine, liquid chromatography mass spectrometry apparatus, and there the findings was significant because concentration of antibiotics were present in our locality also. The study was done recently by us in our center. And now coming to the environmental perspective. So we see that these drugs are present in the environment, drug resistant genes are present in the environment. How will we assess how much environmental risk it is causing? How much risk it is causing to develop AMR in the environment? There we have to calculate something called the environmental risk calculation and AMR risk calculation. So here, this environmental risk calculation is done by dividing the measured environmental concentration. That is the concentration that we have measured in the environment. In our case, the concentration of antibiotics that are present in the water sources, that is divided by predicted no effect concentration of that drug. So MEC, measured environmental concentration, divided by predicted no effect concentration value. If it is more than 1, that means that drug is causing a significant environmental risk in the environment. So that ratio is called the risk quotient. So when we divide the measured environmental concentration by predicted no effect concentration, if the value is more than 1, that is the risk quotient is more than 1, we say that the drug is having a significant impact in our environment to cause environmental toxicity, ecotoxicity, that is causing damage and hazard to the organisms present in the environment. Now, another thing that we have to look is the AMR risk calculation, antimicrobial resistant risk calculation. Again, here also the measured environmental concentration that we have obtained from the water sources is divided by predicted no effect concentration. Values of AMR are there in the literature. So when those values are divided by MEC, we get risk quotient for AMR. And again, if that value is more than 1, we say that there is definitely a risk of causing antimicrobial resistance in that water source. So in our study, both RENV, that is risk quotient for environment, and risk quotient for AMR were more than 1, which means it is causing significant hazards to the environment in the ecotoxicological point of view, as well as in the development of antimicrobial resistance strains in the environment. Now, what we can do is Denmark model. So this is a place where they pay the leading way in reversing the trend of antimicrobial resistance. So Denmark model means they have incorporated the One Health approach put forward by WHO, that is collaboration of different health sectors for combating antimicrobial resistance, not only humans, but also the veterinary, agriculture, fisheries, like that. All sectors are collaborated so that safe use of drugs can be ensured. So here, when the Denmark model, they found that the farmers were using large amounts of this one drug called one glycopeptide belonging to the vancomycin group that was overprescribed in the area, and there were emergence of drug-resistant gene in the known, that is avoparcin. Yeah, avoparcin, which is a glycopeptide antibiotic similar to vancomycin, that was prevalent in the environment. So also here in our country also, farmers use small concentrations of antibiotics as growth promoters. So very less concentration of antibiotics when given to the feed, they act as actually growth promoters to the poultry or even the cattle field. So these administration of sub-lethal and micro concentrations of antibiotics makes the development of drug-resistant genes very rampant in our environment, and that is causing a major risk factor for developing antimicrobial resistant organisms in our community. So what all we can think of to mitigate this global health problem? One is the manufacturing unit. So the drug manufacturing units, when they are established and when they are licensed, it should be ensured that the pollutants are not getting entry into the environment from the outlets. So there we have to do something called the environmental analysis. That is, there is a definite expected concentration of drugs that can be expelled, above which they cannot be given license. So such stringent measures, stringent policies has to be adopted by government and for combating this antimicrobial resistance. Another one is the green pharmaceutical design. What is the green pharmaceutical design? It is focusing drug designing from the drug designing level itself, focusing on sustainable development goals. That is using solvents that are eco-friendly, then which can be easily biodegradable, like that. So green pharmaceutical design, that is another thing that has to be adopted. Then hospital and municipal effluents, wastewater treatment plants, the treatment plants has to be incorporated with such facilities that the antibiotics present in the water sources is also taken care of while the outlets is being disseminated into our water sources. Then proper drug disposal facilities for common man. That is very, very important because we don't know how to dispose our drugs that are present in our homes. We just throw off it here and there. We pour it in the sink and toilets. So what we can do with this unused or expired drugs? So that is also important. Here we in Kerala we have seen some of agencies working in association with these pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and even houses to take care of these disposal of drugs. One is the image, that is the IMA Goes Eco-Friendly, one organization is there that is collecting drugs from the hospitals. Then there is something called the KEEL, that is the Kerala Enviro Infrastructure Limited, again collecting unwanted and unused drugs from some districts in Kerala. Then we have a local self-government organization called Clean Kerala Company Limited, that is also collecting drugs for proper disposal. So these are collected and properly disposed. Actually, they are incinerated. So it is the disposal method currently available for proper disposal of drugs. Now, legislations to prevent over-the-counter of dispensing of antimicrobials. As Sir Alexander Fleming said, it is available in every pharmacy. We are able to access these antimicrobials. So that is the problem. Actually, he foresighted then itself. So that legislation has to come because without proper prescription from a prescriber physician, these drugs should not be dispensed from the pharmaceuticals. So that part should also be taken care of. Then public awareness. Actually, public should be aware what is going on with this misuse and overuse of antibiotics, self-administration of antibiotics, then using the same antibiotics for a second infection. Like that. So public should be aware what is the significance of this antimicrobial resistance and how it is going to get affected in the coming generations. Like that. Then the intersectoral collaboration, not only humans, but also the usage in poultry, piggeries, then cattle field, agriculture, fisheries, everything. This intersectoral collaboration, which was put forward by WHO, which is called the One Health approach for collaborative work, that has to be also properly implemented in our country so that the antimicrobial resistance can be controlled. Or, as Sir Neil said, it should not go for this 10 million deaths by 2050, and it should not affect our GDP to be at 100 trillion loss of GDP by 2050. So, in that aim, and for the future generations, we should take all these things into mind and do something for this. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you all. So let's keep the collective effort to keep antibiotic working. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Rajesh, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jitha. That was a very good presentation regarding the awareness of this antimicrobial resistance and what are the steps that can be taken to prevent this. So one thing I want to add on here, sir, is that the Klebsiella pneumonia in our hospital, we have found that it is resistant to most of the antimicrobial drugs. It is sensitive to only colistin and tigecycline. And most of the other antibiotics, they are become like this organism has become resistant to that. So the New Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, which was discovered maybe in the year 2009 or 2010, something like that, which is also called as the superbug. It is not just restricted to our country. Now it has spread outside as well to worldwide. So this, whatever the threat that we are experiencing, it is not just worldwide. So this is my sir.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, you can. Please go ahead. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir, as I told you, we have come across in our hospital, we had this case of ventilator-associated pneumonia caused by Klebsiella. So this Klebsiella, this strain was sensitive to only colistin and tigecycline, whereas most of the other antimicrobials, this organism has become resistant to those organisms, those antimicrobial drugs. And another thing is that the disposal, the household disposal of these antimicrobials, if something is left out after the patients have utilized, they should not be disposed along with the general waste. Again, it will be coming back to the environment and it will be affecting the other animals and all. So we should educate not just the patients, but also we should bring about certain uh, policy changes, particularly as far as this disposal is considered. We can contact these municipal corporations and all so that they will have a separate section to dispose of these medications, unused and medications. And another thing is that the New Delhi metallo-beta-lactamase, this bug, the so-called super bug, it is not just restricted to India, it has spread worldwide, sir. So these are three observations from my side. If there's any more points that you want to add, you can add them, sir, now.
Yeah, so it was very nice presentation, Dr. Jitha. Can you hear me, Dr. Rajesh?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, it is very nice presentation and it was a detailed one. And definitely, lot of, it's a very important topic, actually. Actually, drug resistance can be, very threatening to the patient. And the mortality rate of the patients will increase because of this drug resistance. And also, many times we will find it very difficult to treat. And you mentioned about polymyxin B, colistin, and have you these drugs are available, and we are not sure whether they will continue to be effective. And luckily, not much of resistance is developed for these drugs. But if you see the toxicity profile of these drugs, and they, majority of them are kidney toxic drugs, liver toxic and, toxic, and also bone marrow toxicity. All these are very high. And whether now we'll have to, decide whether to tolerate the infection or to tolerate the adverse drug reaction. So we will be, debating between whether to, give the antibiotics, because if you don't give, resistance will kill. I mean, microbes will kill the person, or if you give the toxicity will kill the person. So we have to debate. Such kind of situation we are in. Unfortunately, no new, very effective antimicrobials are coming into the picture. So, and also there is no new good sign also. Very rarely here and there we see that, some success of introducing new drug, and because of, our foolishness, I would say humans are, we use the drugs, especially life-saving drugs, left and right, without using our, intelligence. We just keep on using and then make them not relevant to the current status. So such kind of, it's such kind of harassment to the environment, I would say. I'm using little bit of a harsh words so that, people can, at least realize that, we are doing a great, mistake, and we are endangering our own life. So it's very important for all of us to, consider this aspect and take measures. And recently, I felt very bad recently, because there was one advertisement coming from a national organization or a government organization saying that flush all the drugs into the water. That's the one of the worst thing we can do at any time, and we should never flush any drugs. And because if we should never give this kind of suggestions to the public. First thing is, because it may be the failure of the people, of the administrators, not able to provide the resources for collecting the unused drugs and dispose them properly. See, the way the people are collecting the taxes for for manufacturing and selling the drugs, and they should utilize those taxes for, either recollecting unused drugs and also dispose them safely also. It's not that, we take all the taxes and we enjoy for giving freebies or something else, and don't use them for the purpose of protecting the human beings. That is a crime, and it should not be done. So it's the responsibility of the government, if they are allowing the person to manufacture the drugs and allowing them to, sell them and collecting the taxes. What for you are collecting the tax? You are collecting the tax to, create the infrastructure to dispose the drugs safely, and, avoid the dangers to the people from these drugs. This is something which every politician should, register in their mind. And, whom are we going to damage? See, if you flush all these drugs into the environment, what will happen? And most probably your kid and your next generation will get affected. And, if politicians' families are not protected, they will also get affected. Everyone, like in front of the environment, we are all kids, we are all babies, and it will kill all of us if we don't, respect the environment. So polluting air, water, and, soil. These three are the, very important aspects of this earth, and if we pollute them, and who are the first person to get affected, and we the most intelligent people, okay, the humans, so-called, most intelligent species on this earth, so we will get affected. So it's very important for us to, realize this fact. We may be intelligent, but if we don't take the preventive measures, so we will be, committing blunders, and most importantly, we will get affected because of this. And I was very much surprised where, the advertisement said that you can flash 19 drugs, but cleverly what happened, I heard a advertisement from a Radio City or Radio Mirchi, they say that, if an expired drug is there, you flush everything into all the expired drugs into the environment. This is something, misread. What the agency says and the, communication by the media agencies, they do the, further, mistakes, and they don't convey the exact message that is given by the government agency. And, like so-called degree holders or the, license holders for transmitting the information, they should put the, lot of, they should take the lot of responsibility in transmitting the right kind of information to the public. So then only, like we can, it's a collective effort. Media should do their job, doctors should do their job, patients should do their job, and the pharmacist. I would like to know, many pharmacists are there in our group, and most probably they are also there in this call. And I would like to, request all of them, humbly that, please be responsible while dispensing some of the restricted drugs, especially antibiotics. Okay, so like you may, pray, you may fall for the request by your customers saying that, please give us, we are not able to pay for the doctor's fees and all. Those are not excuses. Like who knows? Like you may be giving a wrong medication to them, or which are not indicated to them, and finally patients are getting, bad effects also. So it's my humble request that, be responsible, and you are also very important, link in this health chain. Okay, so very responsibly you have to act, and if you don't dispense the medicines, at least, they will reach the right kind of person. Of course, you can dispense the OTC medication. They are made for it, and they are already licensed to do that. You are licensed to give the OTC medication, but at least the restricted medication should not be given, and you should never encourage a combination which is like irrational combinations. So this is one request from my side. Maybe may I request the speaker, Dr. Jitha, to comment some of on these. What is your views on these?
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Sir, actually, this wise use of drugs, then this safe disposal of drugs is also very, very important. And this use of not only in humans, but also in the other sectors also has to be taken into consideration while we have to combat this antimicrobial resistance. So that is there.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we have, is there any questions? I think there is one question related to like, ratio you mentioned, R,
Yes.
AMR and RENV ratio, something
Yes.
you mentioned. So
Yes.
can you little bit elaborate? Maybe, something new, means there is a lot, we learned in this class, in this webinar. So many new concepts came into the picture. So can you little bit explain to our audience that it may help them to maybe initiate some research in this regard?
Yes, sir. Is this screen visible, sir?
Yes, it is visible.
So this is calculating the environmental risk and the AMR risk, whether it is prevalent in an environment when a particular concentration of the antibiotics are present in our water sources. So we collect the water sources. So I'll talk based on the study we had done here. So we had collected water sources from a different water sample, different sources like river water, borewell water, like that. 30 samples were collected, and these water samples were uh, done this LCMS analysis for quantifying the drugs in these water sources. Then we get a measured environmental concentration, that is the particular concentration of the drugs in the water sources. So that we have the data we have. Now for calculating this risk quotient, we have to divide this measured environmental concentration by predicted no effect concentration value. That is there in the literature. For each antibiotic, there is a predicted no effect concentration that we'll get the value from the literature. So divide our measured environmental concentration value by the predicted no effect concentration value environment for that particular antibiotic. Then if the value is more than 1, so that is called the risk quotient. If it is more than 1, then we say the drug is having a risk of causing environmental hazard or environmental toxicity to the aquatic organisms like that. So that is regarding environmental risk calculation. Now, AMR risk calculation, whether the concentration of the drugs in the water sources is at a stage to cause development of antimicrobial resistant genes in the environment. So there also we divide our measured environmental concentration value by the predicted no effect concentration value AMR. That's a separate value that also we will get from the literature for every particular drug. So by dividing the measured environmental concentration with the predicted no effect concentration value AMR, again, that is another risk quotient RAMR. That is the value that we get. And if it is more than one, again, we say that drug concentration is at the range of causing antimicrobial resistance development in the environment. So that is regarding our ENB and our AMR. Hope I am clear.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think, yeah, anyone? Okay, so now I think we have come to the end of the presentation. So let us, hand
Sir, I would
over-
like to add one more point
Yes,
here.
sir, please.
Before winding up, one more point
Yes.
regarding the 5 Rs while prescribing any drugs, not just to antimicrobial drugs, but to any drugs. Those who are like prescribing, they should follow this 5 R policies. That is the right patient. First, choose the right patient. If you talk about antimicrobial drugs, you choose particular like specific. What is the microorganism that is causing this? Then choose the right drug for this, the specific antimicrobial drug. Then what we have observed is there might be like underdosing. They might not be giving what is the prescribed therapeutic doses. They might be giving either a higher dose or a lower dose for like too long duration or too short duration. So make sure that the prescription is always in the right dose, at the right frequency, and for the right duration. There should not be like you'll be changing this antimicrobial drugs every day or two. First, go with the prescribed, whatever the guideline says for the short duration. So always prescribe the drugs for the right duration, the right dose, and in the right frequency. So that is my point, sir. The 5 Rs that should be added to while prescribing drugs.
Thank you so much. Now it's the time to felicitate our speakers and the chairperson. So let me just, issue the certificate of to the speaker. Let me just share the screen. I think someone is. Yeah. Okay, so let me share my screen. So here, Dr. Jitha,
Yes, sir.
this is your certificate. I'll be sending it to you. So thank you so much
Thank you,
for
sir.
taking up this subject. And your presentation was well received. Congratulations. And we look forward for more of this kind of presentation and very good collaborations with NPS conference, NPS society. So we look forward to have more presentations like this and more association. Congratulations again. And then now I would like to facilitate Dr. Rajesh, who is our chairperson. So Dr. Rajesh, can you see the certificate? Hello? Hello, Dr. Rajesh? Are you there, Dr. Rajesh? Dr. Rajesh? Okay, so I think he may be offline. Okay, so I wish you, thank you so much for joining as the chairperson for this interesting webinar. And we look forward for more collaborations like this. And we hope we will be able to, have a topic from your side too in future. So with this, I thank all the participants for their enthusiastic participation, registration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Rajesh, you are there. Okay. So this is your certificate of
Thank you, sir.
appreciation So thank you so much for joining as chairperson of this session, and you added a lot of value by your presence and also your valuable insights into this topic. And it was the topic was well received. Thank you so much, and I thank all the participants for joining this. And we received more than 600 registrations for this webinar. And I will be sharing the link for downloading the certificate for the participants too in the webinar group. Okay, in the webinar group. And I request all of you to give the feedback, and also you can collect your certificate. And if you wish to support this kind of activities conducted by Medical Pharmacology Society, you can also generously, donate so that we can meet some of the expenses that we generally incur for running the society. Looking forward for your all support, and we will be coming up with new topics because a lot of enthusiastic speakers are connecting with me, and they are very much enthusiastic to uh, share their knowledge and encourage the youngsters and in the development of their skills and knowledge, and also development of our profession, that is pharmacology, and support the MD pharmacologists and all kind of pharmacology. So looking forward to see you all in our future program, and we'll take off now. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jitha and
Thank
Dr. Rajesh, for making this a wonderful webinar session. And it was really well received. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.